Okay, this screencast is going to look at setting up your sheet once you've got your form rolling and getting the answers in for your quizzes to be able to self-mark. So what I'd like to do is, I know that when the information comes in, I've got this grey boxes here come straight from the way the forms are set up inside Google, which is great. So the first thing to do is to make sure that you answer all the questions and make sure they're all right, because this is going to be our answer key. It's going to be our answer key for what we're doing. Then what I've done is I've just added question 1, 2, 3 and 4 and then a total and a percent, and I've actually put those labels in and I've color coded them myself. Now what we want to say is we want to make a formula that says that if anything in this cell is equal to this one, the answer is correct, which is maybe a score of 1, but if it's not, then it gets a 0. So we want to use an if then else statement. So if we put it in an equal sign and it goes if, Google knows that it's actually going to be writing a formula, so it's similar to what you do in Excel. And I'm going to say if D2 equals D2, oops, not plus, if D2 equals D2, then, the comma means then, I want to give it a score of 1. If not, I want to give it a score of 0. And then put an end of bracket. Now I'm going to put a dollar sign here because I'm going to copy this down, because every time a new formula comes in, I want it to keep on going back and checking against the D2 line, which is this one here. So when something comes into D3, I want it to go and check whether the answer in D2 is the same as C3. And so I get a score of 1 because obviously it's right. Now, instead of typing them out over and over again, all I have to do is drag it across like this, and it will then fill it in for me. So I now know that if I go across there, if E2 equals E2, etc., etc. Now my total, I'm just going to use another formula, which is sum. I'm just going to add up these ones, put a bracket at the end, gives me a total of 4, and then I'm going to do a percentage because I know it's out of 4 and I want to know a percent. 4 divided by 4 gives me 1, but that's not quite exactly how I'd like to have it. So I'm just going to go and edit this formula, put a bracket around it, and then I'm just going to times it by 100 to get it into a percentage. So it's 100%, which is really good. So that works wonderfully. What I want to happen with this is that now that I've got this formula running up here and I know these are all correct, I'm just going to highlight them like this, and I'm just going to drag down for my class size, and I'm going to go down to say about 60 because that's how many kids will be there with my quiz that I'm doing. So it's just going to be a very simple learning analytics thing. If you want to make it automated, you can use some scripts, but we won't discuss that here because this is just a simple overview. Now that I've got those numbers coming in there, that's really cool, and you can see there's zeros there because no one's filled out that quiz. Now I want to come across to the analytics page. I've set up another page that's now going to analyze this for me, because otherwise I'm going to have a whole lot of information on one sheet and it's really hard to follow. So I would like to be able to collate that and have a quick squiz at that, and also then be able to export this sheet if I want to. So I want to grab the first name of the person and the last name, because if we go back to our form responses, you can see I've got first name, last name, got all this kind of gear. I'm really just interested in this bit here, what marks they got, whether they got it right or wrong, so I can then adjust my teaching accordingly. So I come to my analytics page. I've just typed in question 1, question 2, up to 4 with a total and a percent. Now what I want this to do is automatically fill this in for me. Now I want to put in the first name, last name, and I want to keep on doing it, so every time something's added, it's there automatically, and I don't want to go fill down because that doesn't work all the time. I'm going to import a range. This is another function or another formula within Google that imports a range of data for you, and it uses a unique key. The unique key is this one up here. This one here is the unique key of this actual sheet, and because it's web-based, it has to refer to that key. So you go from after the equal sign all the way up to before the ampersand there, and that is then the unique key. So if I just go copy and come across to here, I want to use this formula that says import range, and then you have your quotations. I'm going to put in this sheet, and I want everything from B2, column B and column C basically. Column B and column C, I'm going to go all the way down to 100, expecting I'm going to have 100 responses. So if I go enter, that will then load that, it'll look across there and go, is there anything sitting in those cells? If it is, yep, I'll bring them across and look, it's got test for the teacher sitting there. If I go to the next cell down, it says continue. And so what it's saying is just continue that formula until you get to the end. So it does it automatically. Now you'll notice on this sheet here, I've got my first name, last name, then I've got a bit of a gap, and then I've got what the things I'm trying to measure here. So what I need to do is put in another one of those import ranges for those cells there. So I've got it working once, so I'm just going to copy it, come across, put it in there, because that's the one I want. But I don't want B2 to C2, I want H through to M, because that's where my responses are. And when I go enter, it'll then get them and populate it in this way. And you'll see that at the moment I've got some colours in here. Let me show you what I've done to generate these colours. I've got a thing called conditional formatting. So all I've done is I've highlighted those cells, go on right mouse click, go conditional formatting, and you'll find that conditional formatting lets me set up some rules and makes it do something depending on what's happening. So I've got conditional formatting is equal to 1. So if anything in that cell is equal to 1, I want the text to go green and the background colour to go green, so I know they've got the question right. If it's equal to 0, I want it to go to red or red, which means that they've got it wrong. And I go save rules. And as you can see, because that answer is 1 and this one is 1, it's gone green. So these ones are all green. These ones are all red because no one's done the quiz yet. When their names start filling in here, I'll be able to see which students have got what. It's a very good way of doing it. The other thing is, which I find really useful, is that if a student is stuck on question 1, and there might be 3 or 4 of them, when I can come back the next day, I can get them aside and I can work individually with them. Or if there's a whole group of students who maybe have got question 2 wrong, then maybe I haven't delivered that properly or taught that properly, so I can go back and redo it. So it's a really good way of seeing how you're going and seeing how the kid's going, and it's a really simple way of being able to quickly look at a whole lot of data. I've used these up to 20 questions, and you can easily see what students are happening where, and it's a very good way of also checking whether they've done the quiz, because their name will appear here.